Good morning, everyone. It is October the 21st, and that's significant because today marks the 9 months that I have now been a vegan. And so I just want to talk a little bit about my experience, what made me decide to become vegan, and just what has transpired in my life as a result. So this was something that I was thinking about long before I actually did it. This was not something I entered into lightly, and my husband and I decided to do this together. And so, probably about 6 months before I pulled the trigger on this, I just started thinking about my own health and what I needed to do in order to feel better and to have a better quality of life. And so, just, as the pandemic was ongoing and as prices continued to rise on all kinds of things, including meat, I started thinking about what it would be like not to eat meat anymore. Because, who wants to pay $20 for 4 pounds of hamburger? Not me. And so this was something I had thrown around for a while. I had done this in the past. Right before the pandemic, I spent about 5 months eating a vegan diet. I was eating nothing but plant-based food, no animal products whatsoever, and I felt amazing. And I don't remember exactly how I fell off the wagon. All I know is that the holidays came, and before I knew it, I was eating everything that I was eating before. And so I got off track, and I would say probably end of last year was when I really started to look at my health and ways that I could improve things. I wanted to lose weight. I wanted to feel better. I had some health problems that I knew if I didn't do something about now, it was going to become a long-term problem that was going to be out of control. And so I went to see a doctor at the end of last year, and during the visit, there was a lot of sobering, come to Jesus moments for me. And, other than, realizing I needed to do something about these issues, I was diagnosed with prediabetes. My A1C was 6.9, which is right on the border. They don't like to see that. My doctor was like, we need to do something about this. Diet and exercise is going to be key for you because this is reversible. And so I got on board with that, and she prescribed me metformin, and I'll get into a little more about what happened with that. But during my visit, I was also diagnosed with a couple of other things. I originally came because I thought I was having thyroid issues. That turned out to not be the case. I did find out that I had sleep apnea, which my husband could confirm because he was very concerned for me. I was having trouble breathing during the night, which most of the time I was completely unaware of, but sometimes I would notice problems, especially in the morning when I would wake up. And he said I would have strange, erratic breathing and sometimes would stop breathing for at least a minute, and he was very concerned. And it was something that I just kind of dismissed, yeah, I'm okay, it'll be fine. But after visiting the doctor, I knew that I needed to do something about this. And so that's what started me on my journey back to veganism. I realized that everything I'd been doing up to this point was just making me a very unhealthy person, and so I wanted to change that. And it wasn't just about losing weight. That's a bonus, but it's about making sure that your health is in a good spot, because weight is just one of the measures. That doesn't always indicate that you're healthy. It can, but there are other factors. And so, like I said, during the pandemic, as things got more and more expensive and I was noticing the price of meat was just going up and up, I thought, well, to save money, maybe this is something I should consider doing again. And I'm a practical person. I didn't want to approach this from an emotional place, I'm just going to do this on a whim. I don't make decisions like that. At this point, I'm 42 years old, and there are a lot of decisions that I've made in my life that I regret. This is not one of them. And so in February of 2022, right around the end of the month, the third week of the month, my husband and I decided we're going to be vegan. We're going to do this. And we were kind of there already. We were partially there. We had done other eating plans in the past, things that told you, you should cut out dairy. Dairy is bad. And we had pretty much done that except for cheese. We were drinking almond milk. We were not cooking with butter. I was cooking with olive or canola oil. So we were well on track to becoming vegan. We just weren't doing everything. And so we decided we were going to cut out all animal products. And prior to making that choice, there were a couple things that we did. Someone at my husband's work recommended a couple of documentaries, which we watched. And I highly recommend these too. One of those is a documentary called Game Changers. And I don't remember the name of the guy that did the documentary, but he was like a personal trainer and he was involved in like athletic stuff. And he just chronicled his journey to switch to a plant-based diet and what that did for him physically and, just throughout his life. And there was a lot of scientific information, which I appreciated. And the documentary really covered the health benefits of eating a plant-based diet. And I mean, that sold me. It really did. Because I wanted to be a healthier person. I'm still working on that. But this was something that interested me. I knew that I needed to make some changes in order to live a longer and healthier life. Because, I'm a grandmother. And I want to be there for my grandkids. I want them to know that their grandmother was concerned and took care of herself and that she was there. Because I had a set of young grandparents and a set of old grandparents. And my set of older grandparents, my grandfather died from cancer when I was 11 years old. And so I didn't really know him as well as I wanted to. My grandmother lived a little bit longer. She died in 2007. But she, too, was an unhealthy person. And I understood that, genetics can play a big part in this. And so I wanted to do what I could to combat some of that. And so that was one documentary that really helped. Another one called What the Health. That is on Netflix right now. So if you have a Netflix subscription, I suggest that you get on there and look at that. Because it did talk about the health benefits of being vegan, eating a plant-based diet, not using any animal products, not consuming anything like that. But it also pointed me to the environmental reasons of why this is a good lifestyle, and also just some very disturbing systemic issues that have come out of this. I mean, I know a lot of people are concerned about, equality, racial justice, and watching this film revealed another piece of just how marginalized people get the raw end of this. And so after watching those two films, I was already sold. I mean, I wanted to do it before I watched, but watching those two films affirmed that this was the right decision. And so we did it. Like in February of this year, towards the end of this was like the third week, we started eating a plant-based diet, and it was a lot easier than I thought. I know that my husband struggled a little bit because he likes his cheeseburgers, he likes meat, and so it took a little getting used to, but like I said, we were already halfway there. And so making that decision was easy. For me it was, because I started noticing differences in my own body within a week. I'm not kidding. Like I said, I was diagnosed with sleep apnea. I was having trouble breathing. I would wake up with headaches, just mental brain fog, and a lot of things that were very concerning to me. And I'm just going to say it. Within a week of switching to a vegan diet, those issues disappeared. My husband was like, I have to check you at night to make sure you're still alive because you were so quiet. Like, I wasn't having the weird erratic breathing. I wouldn't stop breathing in the middle of the night. And immediately, I would just wake up feeling different. I had more energy throughout the day. I had more restful sleep. And that was very important because, sleep is a beautiful thing. And I wanted to make sure that I was getting good quality sleep. Because the older you get, you start to lose that deeper sleep. You're not getting a lot of stage 4 the older you get, and that's a normal process of aging. But you do want to get good quality sleep, and so that was important. And so that was one of the things I noticed right away, that the sleep apnea symptoms pretty much disappeared within the first week, and that was a little bit shocking. I didn't expect it to come that fast. I also, I have lost weight since I have become vegan. I'm down about 25 pounds since like the beginning of this health journey. So I would say within the last 12 months, I have dropped 25 pounds, which is a big deal because it seems like for me, especially the last 10 or 15 years, I was gaining weight looking at food. And so losing weight has always been a struggle for me since adulthood. And so this was really encouraging to switch to a plant-based diet and to start seeing results. Now, prior to being vegan, there were a couple things that happened that kind of propelled me on the weight loss journey. One of those, going back to my visits with the doctor and being diagnosed as pre-diabetic, I was put on a drug called metformin. To say that Laura and metformin don't get along is a huge understatement. This was something that I thought was going to be helpful to me, that would aid me in the diet and exercise piece of getting control of my weight and getting my sugar where it needed to be. But I wasn't expecting to have an adverse reaction to this drug. The first couple weeks, my doctor had me on 500 milligrams that I was taking once a day. And I noticed some things with my digestive system. I'm just going to leave it at that. And within about the first week, those started to level out. So I wasn't making as many trips to the bathroom as I was at first. And what the doctor was doing for me was that I started out like the first 2 weeks on 500 milligrams, and then I was supposed to increase it to 1,000. So I was taking 500 milligrams twice a day, and that was going to be my regimen. And so I did my best to follow this. I lasted about a month, and then I got really sick. Again, I don't want to get too graphic. I don't want to be gross, but I do want to say that a lot of toilet paper was involved. And by the time I got to the end of this, I had no energy. I couldn't even swallow a mouthful of water without immediately having to run to the bathroom. I wasn't able to eat. I wasn't able to sleep. I was having heart palpitations. I got very weak. I was severely dehydrated. And it became a concern because anytime you have things dealing with the heart and you tell your doctor that, they start to freak out. So I called my doctor after a week of just being really sick to the point of not being able to function. I couldn't go to work. I had to let my boss know, hey, I'm not feeling well. This was right before Christmas too. And they were, thank God my workplace was really cool about it. But my husband was worried, I was worried, but I thought it'll fix itself. I ended up cutting my dosage in half, thinking maybe that would help. I was trying not to eat foods that were high in carbs or sugar because I thought that would help. And it just got worse and worse. Like I said, I couldn't even drink water without being sick. And so during that time, I ended up losing about 11 pounds in the span of about 7 days. And by the end of the week, I was in the emergency room because there was just nothing I could do. I was very sick and I couldn't get a handle on it. And because of having heart palpitations, that really worried me. And so after a series of tests and a lot of money on my end paying for this ER visit, the doctor concluded that it was the medication. And I was kind of leaning that way too. They checked other things. They checked to see if I had gallbladder issues. They wanted to make sure that I didn't need to have that removed because sometimes that's a common thing. And so after, an ultrasound and several tests and a lot of time in the ER, I was there for probably about 4 hours, they concluded it was the medication. And so I ditched the metformin and was back to square one. And that was very frustrating because I was losing some weight and I was, having some success with the metformin. But it's just not something that I can take. And, there are other people out there who have this issue. I think the ER doctor said that 2% of patients put on metformin can't take the medication. And so I fell into that 2%, of course. Murphy's Law of medicine, that applies to me. And so what I ended up doing was ditching the medication. I went back to my doctor. She said there are other medicines I can take, but they're very expensive. And I was not willing to go that route. I was not willing to live my life on a CPAP because I priced those machines and they're very expensive. We're talking like $800 plus for a machine, a good one. I didn't want to have to be on a CPAP. I didn't want to have to take any medication. I wanted to get control of my chronic depression because that was something else I was diagnosed with. My vitamin D was very low when I first went to the doctor. They say that low vitamin D is like 30. Mine was 13. And so that was something else that I was doing. I was taking vitamin D supplements. I was taking vitamins. I was doing all those things. But I knew there was something else I needed to do since I could not be on this medication without being sick. And I guarantee you, if I started taking again, the same thing would happen. And who wants to be in the emergency room around the holidays again? Not me. So that's when I really started thinking about switching to a vegan diet. And like I said before, this is a decision that I am sure was the right one. I mean, other things have changed for me. I feel, like I said, I feel like I have more energy. I noticed that I could run on the treadmill for a lot longer, and a lot of other things happened. Before any of this started, I was holding a lot of fluid. I had a lot of swelling in my legs and feet. That disappeared after being vegan, and it did not take very long. And so for those of you who are thinking about this, I just want to encourage you to watch the 2 documentaries that I mentioned on here and just do some research. It is amazing what a plant-based diet will do for the human body. This is how we are meant to eat. We are meant to eat plants. And these documentaries that I mentioned earlier dispel a lot of the myths behind plant-based eating. Because we've all been taught in school, you know, the food guide pyramid where you have so many servings of meat, so many servings of dairy, all of these other things. No. This is very unhealthy. Animal products are not good for humans. I'm just going to say that. And there have been a lot of studies done to where heart conditions, diabetes, cancer, these things can be handled, if not reversed, with a vegan diet. And so I'm a huge advocate for this now, not just for the health benefits, but also for the environmental benefits, because I've heard a lot of talk about recycling, about composting, about buying sustainable products, and those are great things, and I am an advocate for that, and I do a lot of those things. I mean, I don't do everything, but I do recycle. And I just want to say that if you want to make an impact, a good impact on our environment, the biggest thing that you can do is not to eat meat anymore. Just cut the meat out. It's not good for you. It's not good for the environment. And the reason it's not is because we have livestock farms that are not only tearing up the ground, but are using 25% of our freshwater supply for no reason other than us to kill these animals and eat them. And I'm going to address the whole issue of, oh my gosh, if you're vegan, where do you get your protein? You get your protein from the same place that the animals do that you kill and eat. Animals, like cattle, for example, eat plants. And that's where they get their protein. They get it directly from that source, and then they store it in their body. And so when you eat something like a hamburger or a steak or something like that, where it's from an animal that has been born and raised on eating a plant-based diet, you're getting those proteins secondhand. Why not eat the plants and get the protein directly from the source? It is amazing how much protein there is in just various plants. Like take kale, for example. Kale is a great source of protein, but that's not the only one. So that's my pitch. As a 9-month loyal vegan, that is my pitch. It has been an amazing experience, and I am excited about what's to come. The only thing I would tweak for myself is to cut out the vegan junk food, because I mean, we were very happy when we learned that things like unfrosted Pop-Tarts and Oreos are vegan, and we're like, yay, we can still have our favorite stuff. But I mean, you still have to be careful with the processed foods. You want to eat things that are fresh. You want to eat things that are healthy. And so you can eat stuff from the freezer section that's vegan, but that's not always a good thing. That should be something like the use sparingly part of your diet. And so again, that's my pitch. Just jump right in. If you live alone, you can do it. I mean, it's great to find people who are also vegans that can help you with recipes and things like that. If you are living with someone, if you're married, if you have a significant other that lives with you, talk to them about doing it together, because it really does help to have an accountability partner. And so that's my spiel. I'm in favor of this. I never thought I would be one of those people who would embrace this type of eating plan, because I mean, I live in a rural community. I'm from East Central Indiana. There's farmland everywhere, and you just grow up thinking that eating meat is a good thing. And I thought that until I learned otherwise. So that's all I have to say. 9 months vegan. It's going very well. It's going very well for my husband too. He has his temptations, but doesn't give in, because both of us are afraid if we would go back to meat again, it would literally make us sick. Like, it would make us physically ill. Because, I mean, it's just not worth it. It's not worth it to feel awful. And when I wasn't a vegan, I did. I felt awful. I felt sluggish, and I felt lethargic, and you don't want to feel like that. I'm in my 40s, but that doesn't mean that I can't feel good and have energy. And so if that's what you're looking for, look no farther. There are other resources you can look at. There are a lot of people who have a lot more information than I have and have been doing this a lot longer. One of the shows that we watched for a little while was Forks Over Knives, which explains the benefits of plant-based eating versus eating animal products. So check into that. It's a great resource, and I just want to encourage you that if you're thinking about becoming vegan, what better time to start than now? Have a great day.